Call of Duty Zombies perfected the formula that made great maps the community loves, but what do you do when the formula stops working? Firebase Z released February 4th, 2021 and faced the challenge of creating a new formula that works. Although not perfect, this new formula brings back some old mechanics and introduces some new ones as well, which are continued through the rest of the Cold War maps. Yes, you heard that right. Call of Duty ends up abandoning this formula once the next game comes out, but that's a topic for a later video. Real quick, before we get into it, my analytics show that about 99.6 of you are not subscribed. It would be amazing if you guys could hit that button and support the channel as we are pushing to reach 500 subscribers. Also, while you're down there, if you like the video, make sure to press the like button as that also helps out the channel. With that said, let's get into the video. Firebase Z takes place on June 15th, 1984 in Vietnam. This map is separated into two sections that are accessible by a portal. The first section of the map is located in a small village in the A Shau Valley that was previously used to house the Omega Group scientists as they were working at a nearby site. The second section of Firebase Z is built on top of the old Firebase Ripcord grounds, previously owned by the United States in 1968. It is now owned by Omega Group for mining and studying dark ether with the intent of developing dark ether weapons and technologies using their own gateway, inspired by the gateway at Project Endstation. This new site named Outpost 25 is where most of the action happens in the map. This area features several buildings that range from a military command center, a field hospital, and a mission control building with several other buildings not mentioned. From the teleport area of Outpost 25, two buildings that I didn't mention and play key parts in the story are visible. On the left, a circular building called the OPC, also known as the Omega Portal Chamber, and on the right, a large antenna that sits above the data center building. Both the village and Outpost 25 have noticeable blood spread throughout, as well as random fires in the map, with Outpost 25 having several vehicles on fire as well. Firebase Z also brought back a formula that hadn't been used in almost 10 years, and then was used for every single Zombies map in the rest of Cold War. Both sections of Firebase Z are heavily based on the campaign mission Fractured Jaw, with the village being a near one-to-one replica. Outpost 25 draws little inspiration from the campaign mission other than its location. While this was very common in original Zombies maps, it's actually one of the major complaints about Cold War as a whole. Firebase Z boasts several new features, with very few of them that are unique to the franchise, yet most of them don't feel ripped from the other games. There are two main modes of quick transportation in Firebase Z. The first is the teleporter located in the spawn area, as well as the helipad in Outpost 25. This portal is the only way to travel between these two areas and is required to turn on the power in the facility as well as to access the Pack-a-Punch machine. This portal system is very similar to the portal in Shadows of Evil in that you teleport to an area of the map that is inaccessible without teleporting, and also allows the player to enable the Pack-a-Punch machine. This also borrows from Shadows with teleporting from a larger, more common area to a smaller, compact area to upgrade the player's weapon. Jump pads are also featured in Firebase Z and add the ability to quickly travel around the Outpost 25 area. Jump pads in Firebase Z are honestly the worst take on them throughout the franchise. Jock first introduced the jump pads with the Wonder Sphere that allowed players to jump to the rocket area that was only accessible from this or teleporting, and was required to use for the completion of the Easter egg. Firebase Z implements the jump pads as a fast mode of transportation to assist with getting to the assault waves, but really you can run to those waves before they start, making the jump pads essentially useless. While we are on this topic, assault waves were also introduced and offer a bit of a change from the normal round cycle. Assault waves first start after round 12 and then happen every 10 rounds. The special round happens at a random ether reactor in which the only goal is to defend against large hordes of zombies that are trying to attack the flare control unit. If the unit is not protected, the reactor will go down and the player will have to reactivate it, spending 500 points. These waves get harder after round 30, where a new mini-boss named Orda appears in the background, making this more challenging. In higher rounds, players often let the reactor go down and simply pay the points to continue the game. This idea isn't new to the franchise, but is heavily simplified from the similar assault waves in Origins, where Templar zombies attack the generators to disable the power. If the Templar zombies take down a generator, they move to another one to disable it. This was not added to Firebase, making it much simpler for a newer player. Firebase Z features 3 alternate enemy types, as well as a unique boss zombie, but we will get into the boss a little later. Hellhounds and Manglers return from previous games and act the same as previous titles, with a new enemy, the Mimic, being introduced. This new enemy can spawn in 2 different ways. The first is the traditional enemy spawning in a wave of zombies, and the second way is by appearing as a random item on the floor that once the player is near it will appear from the object and chase the player onto the field of the map. map. Firebase Z offers several areas to play and ways to play, allowing for replayability for the player with large open areas of the map, tighter areas, and areas with verticality, allowing for the movement of Cold War to really shine. This map does feel easier than D Machine, especially with the addition of the Tombstone perk in the map. Tombstone in Cold War is very similar to the perk in Black Ops 2 Zombies named Who's Who. When the player goes down, they are spawned into a random area of the map as a ghost with a weapon and must run to where they were downed and revive themselves. This acts as a secondary self-revive, allowing players to stay in games longer. The other thing that makes Firebase Z easier is the new wonder weapon, the
Реакторный автоматоизлучатель Куклей,
or as most of the community calls it, the Ray K. This weapon feels like a full auto version of the ray gun with a grenade launcher attachment that shoots orbs at the zombies. For Easter eggs, Cold War Zombies as a whole goes back to the method used in World at War and Black Ops 1, where the story is there but the main focus is the gameplay. With this said, the story in Firebase Z is done quite well, and we will get into that, but it lacks the direct storytelling and instead focuses heavily on cutscenes and intel found throughout the map to tell the story. The Easter eggs in Cold War as a whole are heavily criticized as hand-holding, but looking back, this was really to simplify the complexity of these from previous games. The Easter egg steps in Firebase Z are fairly simple, and as said, the majority of these steps are told to the player throughout the game through dialogue. The best steps of this Easter egg have to be when the OPC opens up and what comes out of it, as well as the boss fight where the order from the assault waves returns in the village, sending hordes of zombies and attacking the village. Very similar to D Machine, Firebase Z's story begins before the game starts. Following Omega Group's discovery of Project Endstation, they began working on their own facility called Outpost 25 in Vietnam to create their own stabilized gateway into the Dark Ether with the intentions of using this gateway to mine Dark Ether for the purpose of developing Dark Ether weapons and technologies. Disgusted by the experiments of the lead scientist named Dr. Peck at Outpost 25, a highly ranked Omega officer by the name of Sergei Ravanov agreed to meet with Samantha Maxis and informed her of Omega's location as well as what they were working on. In June 1984, Samantha went to the facility to see it for herself with a plan to sabotage Omega's work, but this was until she was captured by Omega soldiers. At this time, Peck began torturing Samantha to figure out who provided her information on Outpost 25. Reluctant to tell her information, Peck would throw Samantha into the Dark Ether to never be seen again. After this, the gateway emitted a large burst of Ethereum, causing anyone in the area to die or become infected. To protect himself, Peck would lock himself in a sealed room. After discovering that Samantha was captured by Omega's team, Ravanov reached out to Grigory Weaver, the head of field operations at Requiem, to inform him of the news. A few days after Weaver received this call, Requiem sent a strike team into the Ashau Valley village to meet Ravanov. Once the players go through the teleporter, they are instructed to turn on the power in the facility. After this, they need to talk to Peck, who reveals to the team that Samantha is no longer at Outpost 25 and instead has been thrown into the Dark Ether as a test subject. Unfortunately, in order to open the gateway, there are portal codes that are required, and the scientists who knew these codes are no longer alive. Using a device in the data center on special mimics allows the team to discover the codes. What the team is told to do next is align a satellite to Samantha's frequency and then enter the codes into the OPC. Shortly after doing this, a now purple radiated Samantha appears out of the portal, seemingly weak. After this, the OPC becomes overloaded, which causes Samantha and the team to run through the portal to re-enter into the village. As they go to escape, however, they are met by the Orda. After defeating the Orda, the Requiem team flies away in the Raptor 1 helicopter. At the end of the map, there is a cutscene which shows the Omega team coming to rescue Peck. However, he is met by the colonel of Omega Group, Lav Kravchenko, who needs to see a new commitment to Omega from Peck.
Which is your better eye?
So Firebase Z, a map that doesn't introduce much new content, but instead modifies content from several fan favorite maps into one free feature-filled map. While you may or may not like Firebase Z, this map wasn't designed to be loved. It was instead designed to build and figure out the formula for what came next.